National Liquor Traders Council wants an audience with President Ramaphosa. Now, to remind you, the surge of COVID-19 cases has led to fears of an imminent booze ban. We've been through that before, haven't we? The council says this will hurt an already bruised industry and could affect the livelihoods of nearly 300,000 people. Let's unpack this with the council's Lucky Ntamane. Mr. Ntamane, good to have you with us here on All Angles. I feel like we've had this conversation before, no to a booze ban, but the numbers are worrying again. Surely you acknowledge that.
Good afternoon and thank you for the opportunity. Yes, we are obviously concerned by the numbers. Hence, we took a proactive stance by writing to the president to seek an audience to essentially look at three things. Number one, to find a sustainable solution that will ensure that we continue to support government's efforts to combat the pandemic in every way possible. But secondly, is to call on the president and his team to really engage with liquor traders, especially where the decisions that have to be taken have a potential impact on our businesses, like we have seen in the past three bans that we were subjected to. But also, lastly and importantly, to ensure that the decisions that are taken by the government have got some scientific basis in them. We understand that some of the decisions that have been taken have no basis. In fact, they have no basis in science, and we are hoping that government will be able to take into confidence the public as well as the alcohol industry in the decisions that they take to ensure that those are following the nature of science as they have the Ministerial Advisory Council assisting government. We are hopeful that they will be able to take those decisions in line with all those scientific evidence that are presented to them.
And I don't think many people will argue with you, Lucky, as far as this being a need for scientific data and some kind of analysis around this. And while we talk about the nature of science, we also need to talk about the nature of human beings. We aren't very well behaved, are we?
I think we are well behaved. It's the rotten apples that we continue to worry about, because their voices seems to be more louder than those that are doing things the right way. And we cannot avoid these noises that are coming from that angle of the rotten apples. And these are precisely the people that we need to be able to deal with. And hence our call to law enforcement officials for the law to take its course against any liquor trader who is not following the law. Even the patrons and consumers that are not following the laws, really law needs to take its course in that regard. Because for us, it really is an issue of livelihoods in this state. Even though we fully respect the issue of lives and we have made our commitments known to government to ensure that we support those lives. But, the sad thing, Gareth, is this. There is no vaccine for poverty. And the three bans have really subjected our people to a perpetual poverty. The talk of a fourth is restriction or even a ban is something that doesn't sit well with us, because we know there isn't any antidote that will be able to alleviate poverty on our members. Hence, we are calling government to sit with us to look at ways and means in which we can find common ground that will ensure that we continue to protect lives, but also preserve the livelihoods of those that are dependent on the alcohol industry.
I can see headlines being written off the back of what you just said to me, Lucky. No vaccine for poverty, and I don't think anyone will disagree with you. So let's just, if we can, just get down to the nuts and bolts of this. If you were to meet with the president and have a consultation, we've been here before where in lockdown where we saw no alcohol, then we saw alcohol only allowed for sit-down, i.e. in restaurants, then it was restricted hours, etc. How, of the various ways of handling this that you yourself have been through, how would you advise government to do it this time round if they feel that liquor is partly to blame for the high rise in numbers? What is your suggestion to government?
Our approach really is to achieve an objective where there will be certainty in the industry, because certainty allows the industry as well as liquor traders to plan their lives. But importantly, what we'll propose to government is to look at a circuit breaker type of scenario in which we'll be able to assist in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic together. By that, Gareth, I mean we look at the numbers. So, for example, if we've got 20,000 cases on 7-day moving average, we can then say that we restrict trading by maybe a day. So as the cases rise, we can then look at measures that we can implement, to ensure that our efforts are supporting government. So we can reduce the trading hours, we can reduce the days. But what we are against is a situation where we wait till the last minute to come with the solutions that we feel will be able to alleviate against further spread. So if we're able right now to meet with government and we look at means and ways in which we can put on the table, that will create certainty in the industry. That will allow us to be able to plan ahead and also see how we can best support governments as we see the numbers rising. Right now, we are looking at an average of about 3,000, and no one is saying anything. So our stance is really that of a proactive sector that really wants to work with government so that we are able to, run away from this notion of always closing us on immediate effect or even restricting us on immediate effect. We feel that there is no need to actually have those type of conversations. If we're able to talk to each other, we're able to predict and look at the cases as we go along and be able to come up with ways in which we'll be able to mitigate against, the severity of these bans and what they've done into our sector. We are still yet to recover as Travers, and we feel that, now is the right time for government to engage with us so that we are able to alleviate the poverty that will come as a result of government non-consultation efforts.
Lucky, I have a final question to you, and this is probably more from a practical level, and we won't have the time to go into too much detail about this, but help me understand if this could be a suggestion. I saw this doing the rounds on social media, the last liquor lockdown we had. The issue seems to be that the moment we take alcohol away from people and only give them 4 days in a week where they can buy alcohol, they end up binge buying. They are buying more alcohol than they ordinarily would because they know that for the next half a week they can't buy any alcohol. The suggestion back then, Lucky, was to limit the amount of alcohol that an individual can buy. The reason for that is if you're going to, instead of buy one bottle of wine, people are now buying cases and cases of wine. They're going home, they're getting drunk, they're being irresponsible, sometimes breaking the law. Is that too simplistic a solution to a problem like this? Still be able to sell alcohol, but limit it to an individual and how much they can buy? Or is that just too a simple way of looking at this?
I think what the bans have done, they have propped up the illicit market of alcohol. There's some studies that seem to suggest that the illicit trade in South Africa has moved from 12% to 24%, accounting to over 15 billion rand worth of illicit alcohol being sold in the country. So even if you restrict, the illicit market is going to be the one that actually gains market share. So any restriction is actually a positive move for the illicit market. I think for us, it's really to talk about issues of behavioral change programs that seeks to educate people to drink alcohol in a responsible manner and also avoid issues of binge drinking. So if I allow people to be able to access alcohol over a 7-day period and ensure that, you put the right mechanisms in place as far as curfew is concerned, for example, and you put the right policing behind that, then we feel that you'll be able to get the results that you want as government. And we are willing to work with government in that regard. But we do not feel that restrictions or a ban is really a solution. We feel that that's a blunt object that is meant really to subject our people to a livelihood that's only going to be known as a poverty-stricken one.
No, let's not forget at all that this is, in the end, also about jobs, not about enjoying your beer at night. There's very serious ramifications by closing the liquor industry down. And Lucky and Tamane, always a pleasure speaking to you. National Liquor Traders Council joining us here on All Angles on eNCA.